Hey, howdy, hey everybody. Scott is here, and today we're going to talk about mushrooms, specifically the genus Ganoderma, reishi mushrooms. This is a real handy one. It's a real safe mushroom. You know, um, some plants are poisonous, of course, and well, of course they are, but most, air quote, poisonous plants aren't deadly in the quantities that you are likely to, that you are likely to get just trying them out and experimenting. I mean, there are some you got to watch out about, but most of them, if you get the wrong plant, you'll, get a bellyache, or you might have to, run to the restroom and have a kind of uncomfortable night. But most plants are not absolutely deadly. Now, mushrooms, on the other hand, mushrooms take being personal as a they take being poisonous rather as a personal challenge. It's like they have a really big wager on who can kill the most people, and nobody wants to lose. So with mushrooms, you have to be really careful. But the reishi mushrooms are one of these safer mushrooms that don't have poisonous lookalikes. So let's take a look at these, see what we can do with them, and then we'll all be the wiser for it. So to identify reishi mushrooms, they look sort of glossy or varnished on the top. It looks like someone has got like a shellac or something and painted every mushroom. They're shiny. They tend to be sort of a liver red, something in the reddish at the center, and then towards the end they become a sort of a yellow or whitish. Um, and there are the different species. You can find different colors based on whatever species you find, but normally you find reference to the red ones, and the color will change as it goes from center to the edge in these sort of lumpy, fairly well, they're pretty defined zones. It bleeds from the inside to the outside, but you can see sort of like rings, kind of bumpy, lumpy rings. You can go back and look at that first picture on the opening slide to see that real good too. And then I don't know what they have these things growing in here in this picture. Texture wise, these are woody and hard. There's another one that I think I have it on the lookalike page. I think I have the name there that you might mistake for these possibly, but it's softer. They're hard, and when you break it, the inside is kind of corky. Um, and when you harvest them, it's going to be easier to twist and break it off than it is to cut it. Do whatever works for you, but that's my experience. The stem is sometimes absent, and it usually comes out from the side. These tend to have sort of a kidney shape. I guess that's not in the notes, but I can let you know that. Now, they're polypore mushrooms. So you look at the bottom, see this picture here. On the left, that's a polypore. Poly meaning many, and pores, like you have pores in your skin. The underside is a bunch of little holes, and they'll be real little. And on the right, that's a mushroom with gills. So if you find something that has gills, that's not this one, that's something else. And if you scratch it, say if you can scratch it with your fingernail or a stick or a knife, it usually discolors, fairly quickly or after a couple of minutes. That's another good way to tell that you have the right kind. You can find them. I'm not sure about the worldwide distribution. Now, I know in big chunks of Asia, these grow some of these species. I know they have them, and I know we have them here in North America. There's at least one species that grows in the Amazon somewhere. But they grow in forests. They grow on trees. They are a wood-rotting saprobe. Is that how you pronounce that? I'm not actually. I didn't look up how to pronounce that word, but they feed off of the tree. So you're going to find them on trees, especially older trees or dead trees. Some of them grow on living, some will grow on dead trees. And depending on the species, it can be on hardwoods or conifers. There's one species that likes hemlocks a lot. You want to avoid harvesting around locust trees because for whatever reason they seem to pull something out of the locust tree that doesn't agree with people. At least there are some reports of that. And the best quality ones are going to be harvested in the summer or the fall. But I mean, if you see one, you can harvest it. Some cautions. Well, there are no poisonous lookalikes. They are somewhat similar to the Ischnoderma resinosum. I've never found that out in the woods. I just found a picture of it, and there are probably others that it looks like. But Ischnoderma is a softer mushroom from the reports that I've read, whereas the Ganoderma are kind of woody and tougher and hard. Um, Also, if you just happen to have a random allergy or an intolerance to mushrooms, of course you wouldn't want to eat this. And if you have never tried this mushroom before, then definitely go easy on it at first. Especially if you have a shellfish allergy, you should be real careful with mushrooms because mushrooms are made of a lot of chitin, which is the same chemical that shellfish use to make their shells. Bugs do too. If you're allergic to shellfish, you should be real cautious about eating insects if you get into entomophagy at all. And as I said before, avoid harvesting them from around locust trees. As far as I can tell, that's not a dangerous reaction that people have, but rather it's just an uncomfortable one. It's not that the mushroom was poisonous by itself, but either a reaction or a response to growing on the tree, or perhaps it's pulling something out of the tree. I'm not really sure exactly what's going on there. Just best to avoid that though. They don't really have a strictly edible use. They're just too tough to eat. But we do make some teas, which we'll talk about. But that's you drink the tea for its medicinal use. So when we're talking about medicinal uses, which Ganoderma species is the best? You will find lots of videos and articles and reports talking about a species that's called a Lingzhi mushroom, or the red reishi. It's Ganoderma lucidum. Uh, I don't know if that's really the best or not. It's certainly the most researched. So it has the most scientific backing behind it. It might be one of those situations like with the slippery elm. Everybody says, use slippery elm, well, you have to use slippery elm, and they ignore all the other elms. And you know what? Slippery elm really probably is the best elm for the things you use elm for the demulcents. But you can use all the other elms too. All of the other elms are perfectly usable. It's just that slippery elm it probably is a little bit better, um, and it's much more well known. Everybody says slippery elm all the time. And I'm certainly no expert with all the different species of these Ganoderma mushrooms, but I kind of get the impression that it's like that. You can definitely use the other species for the same things. Um, your mileage may vary. um, Medicinally, it's an adaptogen. Now, they do other things too, but this is the main one that I want to bring out here is that it's an adaptogen. And adaptogens help your body and your mind adapt to stressors, whether it's a physical stress, emotional stress, job stress, whatever you have. It helps you adapt and respond appropriately to stress. And that's really important because um, especially here in the West, in the American culture, we busy ourselves. We value busyness, and we see a person that's really busy and stressed out, and we think that person has it all together. That person is living a good, productive life. And we see somebody that's relaxing and taking it easy, and we say, well, that bum, that jerk, they're not doing anything. They're unproductive. They're probably living off the government. And we praise people that are stressed out of their minds and value them as good people. And somebody that's relaxing, we look down on them and shun them. And it's really awful. But even if you're outside of the United States, even if you have a different cultural mindset, stressors get to everybody. Physical stressors, all the kind of stressors. And having your body not overreact to those or underreact is a really handy thing. There really aren't too many things that adaptogens don't help, at least indirectly. And especially if you're living in North America, this is a really good one to know because we don't have a lot of really good adaptogens. Now, I mean, we have several plants that might function as mild adaptogens, but we don't have a lot of really good ones. We have American ginseng, that's a really good adaptogen. And we have a reishi mushroom. We have a few species that grow here. Um, but you know where has a lot of good adaptogens around Asia. Asia seems to have a lot of really good adaptogens for whatever reason. Oh well, food for thought. So just keep that in mind. And oh, its medicinal properties will stay in the mushroom after it's dried. So I recommend that you cut it up into strips or into cubes, whatever you like, before you dry it, while it's still somewhat workable. Because after it dries, oh goodness, that thing is hard. Just cut it into strips and then dry it, and then you know put it in a mason jar somewhere dark and dry and cool until you need it, and uh, and it should keep, and it should still be medicinally potent. And there are three primary ways that people use this. So let's go over how you would actually use a reishi mushroom. I've oh, sorry, I got into some dust before I recorded this. Oh, my wife just got back from a trip and we've been cleaning, because she's been gone, so of course the house became dirty. Anyway, we have reishi mushrooms that seem to want to grow in our yard on an old tree that's probably gradually dying, and on this stump that we had cut down several years ago. So I've got to play with these some. But the three main ways of consuming these are as a tea, as a tincture, and in powders, just consuming the powdered herb or the powdered mushroom. So let's talk about them. The tea is not really a tea if we're talking herbal medicine lingo. It's really, you want to make a decoction. People do make a tea, but I don't think that it extracts very much of the medicinal compounds. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think that the tea is going to penetrate those mushroom cells. They're so hard and it's so woody and stubborn that just a simple tea, I just do not think it's going to pull out a significant amount. You're going to get some of the taste, and it definitely has a strong flavor. It has this earthy flavor. I'm not really a fan. I'm kind of getting my notes out of order. If you look down at the bottom there, it's a very earthy flavor. If you're a fan, man, go ahead and drink that thing. But otherwise, you might try to mix it with milk if you're a milk drinker. You can certainly dilute it. You might try to add a little sugar or honey, unless you've been getting too much sugar like me, and you really want to cut that stuff out. So just do your best. A little salt might help. Anyway, it takes a lot of simmering to break through those tough cells to get that medicinal component out of there. And you will find recommendations online to simmer that stuff anywhere from 30 minutes to, like maybe 24 hours. I don't know if people go that long, but I mean a long, long time, just adding more water. My best guess, and bear in mind that I don't have a chemistry lab to verify this, but my best guess of what I think is effective is simmering it for somewhere around 30 minutes or so, and then you can bottle it and close it up and leave it with the herbs in it, with the mushroom in it. Leave it for at least 4 hours or overnight, just the same way you would do for a nourishing herbal infusion. To leave it overnight. I think that simmering it for 30 minutes is enough to break up the cell walls and rehydrate it fine. And then by letting it soak for those hours, that gives it time to pull everything out. And then you can just strain out the mushroom bits and bottle it up and put it in your fridge. Man, that flavor though, I'm not really a fan. Tincture-wise, I have not played with reishi tincture, and I'm not sure why I didn't make one. If we find some more growing this year, I definitely will. So um, I can't give you any kind of dosing suggestion, but you can make the reishi mushroom you can prepare it as a tincture, and it'll work just fine too. And I really want to mess with that next year because I just don't care for the taste of the tea. Um, oh, and the tea or the decoction. It's hard to say how much you should drink. You will find lots of different recommendations. I say, I mean, it's not a dangerous medicinal. I keep trying to say herb, although technically it's a fungus. It's not a dangerous fungus. So I mean, start small and work your way up. Oh, if I was just to make a ballpark, you know, guess of what might be effective for you. And remember, this is a good thing to take over time also to kind of build up in your system rather than just saying, oh, I feel like I might have a cold coming on or I'm stressed. I'll drink, 1 cup of this and I feel great. You want this stuff to build up in your system. I would say drink, uh, a, you might start with just a cup or maybe just 1 cup a day, a cup or two a day with something like maybe just 5 grams of the dried mushroom somewhere in there. And you could certainly increase that if you needed to, if you know weren't getting any effects from that after a few days or a week or so, and that would be fine. I'm not sure what the upward. I'm not sure what the upper limit is on what is acceptable on reishi because I never ever make it that strong because it tastes too strong. Um, so that's something you might want to look into. I don't want to say a number on that because off the top of my head, I'm just not sure. And then the third way that people take reishi, and this is one that I kind of want to look into a little more, is as a powder. In fact, if you were to powder it, if you have a really good blender and you powdered up some of that dried reishi, I don't think you would have to decoct it nearly as long. But yeah, powder it. People will powder it and then just stir it up in some water and then swallow it. And uh, most of the time, I would say this is probably not effective, or not very effective. I'm sure your digestive juices would break down some of it, but probably you are passing just a lot of it out of your body unused. But there is this company I've looked at. They have this product, this Pharmanex company. They have this ReishiMax. They have some kind of fancy proprietary process where they crack the cell walls of the mushroom cells. And it might be something that you want to look at. I have not tried this one, but it looked promising enough that I thought I would share this with you if that's something that you might be interested in. I will put a couple of links down in the comments or in the description, wherever you're watching this video. If you are interested in looking into this, I know a lady that sells this stuff. She hasn't quite convinced me to buy it yet because I think it's a little pricey, but it might be some really good stuff looking at it. And if anybody does get it, be sure and let me know what you think about it, if you think you can tell any difference with this Pharmanex stuff, because I would love to get some feedback on that. But I'll put that in there. That's going to wrap it up. I hope you learned something. I hope we got something useful in here. Oh, and of course my nose is unclogging right now. I have got to get rid of those sugars. I tell you what, that sugar, that's going to end up killing me because I just have a real sweet tooth and it stuffs my nose up. It's inflammatory. Anyway, this has been a little rambly, but why not head over to my Patreon page and throw some money at me? Oh, you can get some neat stuff. Oh, this is best video ever. This is definitely the best video, totally on point. Anyway, you can see the link there. You can go and check out stuff if you want to. If not, whatever. I never got into this to get rich. Of course, a little bit of money helps now and then too, doesn't it? Okay, I'll see everybody in the video tomorrow, which will be about, I don't know, something. But hey, Monday, that's a book report Monday, so well, I know that's coming up. Keep your eyes up for plants and zombies and mushrooms. I'll see everybody. Happy foraging.